What's going on, guys? This is Aaron with Departures Capital. We're here with Michael Williams, chairman of Aftermath Silver. Nice to have you back. Michael, how are you doing today?
Hey, good, Aaron. How are you?
Doing great. Excited to get an update. So, can you start by giving us, an update on Aftermath Silver and what you guys have been up to?
Sure. We're currently getting ready to drill in both Barranquilla and Chayacoyo. We're in the midst of planning those programs. COVID has thrown a bit of a wrench in it because it's delayed us somewhat. Last year, I think Chile went into lockdown pretty well from April through to November when there was no international travel into the country. And I just got a note this morning that they're going back into an extensive lockdown now. Hopefully it's short in nature, but we still need to plan around it. We have people on the ground in Chile, but in some cases they're even having trouble accessing the project. But the idea at Chayacoyo would be to do some infill drilling, some step out drilling. Ostensibly, we want to increase the resource there, and that'll be the next thing we do, as well as some metallurgical drilling. Over at Barranquilla in Peru, it's a little bit more complex because we're going to pre-feasibility study, and we're currently waiting on some results from our metallurgy on some previous core. And then from that, the engineers can determine exactly how much we need to drill, and more importantly, where we need to drill on that project. I think, Aaron, it's key pointing out at Barranquilla. Now, this is a historic resource. You're looking at 98 million ounces of silver in measured and indicated, and 28 million in inferred. Now, being it's historic, you can't rely on it, but it gives you an indication of the size of that particular project going forward. It's not incumbent on us to add additional ore now. We will, but what we want to do is be able to demonstrate the economics of the ore we have, and we'd like to do that in the next 24 months, which means going to pre-feasibility study. So we'll be submitting our permit shortly, waiting to hear back, and then hopefully mobbing the drills later on this year on both Chayacoyo and Barranquilla.
So has COVID caused any major issues for you guys?
Yeah, a little bit. I think we're 6 months behind where we would like to have been. In a perfect world, I'd like to be discussing drill results on both projects with you at this time. So yeah, it has hampered our efforts a little bit. For instance, at Chayacoyo, we're assaying some existing core that previously wasn't done. If you remember from our previous conversation, our whole idea behind Chayacoyo was there was a main vein system structure that was previously drilled that Mandalay was focusing on, the company we bought it off of. And we want to also drill into the halo surrounding that, because our idea is to come up with a conceptual open pit there. And I think we've largely done that in the last year. If you look at our last press release regarding Chayacoyo, we increased the resource, and what we did is we incorporated some of that interpretation of the drilling surrounding the main structure. So that's very positive, because we always maintained, look, it works exceedingly well, we think, as an open pit versus an underground. And to do that, you need to bring in the hanging wall mineralization, which we've done. We're looking now at 35 million ounces currently of measured and indicated, with a further 11 million ounces of inferred at Chayacoyo, current 43,101. Now, our goal always is, I think what separates Aftermath somewhat from some of the other silver companies is several things. Our two main projects, Chayacoyo and Barranquilla, look like they'll be open pittable. They're open pit targets for sure. And, when we go to PEA at Chayacoyo and PFS at Barranquilla, we'll demonstrate that and be able to show what the strip ratios are and those things. There are very few large open pit silver ore bodies, and we have two of them, in our opinion, going forward. So I think that's critical. The other thing that we like to look at is, are we optimistic on the silver price? Absolutely. When we picked up these projects, they were sub $20 silver. And in our minds, projects need to work at below $20 in order to finance them in the future. When you're putting a mine into production isn't cheap. You need all your ducks in a row, and being able to demonstrate that your projects work at lower metal prices than the current ones, I think, is a key tenet moving forward, which I believe both of ours will be able to demonstrate that. But what you also want is, and I'm more in this camp, I think, silver has a long way to go. You want to offer your shareholders the leverage to do that. That when you do get a price increase, that it would impact, your economics dramatically, and hopefully we'll be able to show that as well.
So I was curious in regards to Barranquilla, why did SSR Mining decide to sell it to Aftermath Silver?
Oh, that's a good question. I think if you look at, and I've talked to several of the key executives at SSR and asked them the question, and it came up in our initial due diligence. The answer was, they're migrating over to more of a gold company. So Barranquilla is silver copper. There's 45 million tons of copper at 0.7. So from that point of view, on a commodity side, it didn't fit within their goals. But also, Peru wasn't a high priority country for them. They've only have so much management bandwidth, and they wanted to focus on other areas. And they were merging with a lesser mining. So it just wasn't a fit on a commodity basis and a country basis going forward. And I think it's going to require, at Barranquilla, it's going to require a lot of work to show the economics within 24, 36 months. They just didn't have the time and didn't want to put the resources to that. I think the geology, in our opinion, has been de-risked. The engineering is de-risked. What we need to do is demonstrate the metallurgy, which is always the third, leg of the stool, if you will. That's where a lot of our efforts are going forward, is to show people how we are going to make that project work from a metallurgical point of view. And I think that's, one of the key things. In our mind, we will have enough ounces and tons there. That's not to say the more won't be found. There's several excellent exploration targets, and everything that's been drilled to date. Just the ore didn't stop there, not the ore, but the mineralization didn't stop there. So we start stepping out, we'll definitely increase the ore body, in our opinion. But so I think the long-winded answer is it just didn't fit at the current time within their mandate to focus more on gold in other regions.
It almost seems like a win-win for you guys to be able to pick up that asset. So, I was just curious, can you give us any further updates on your drill program or how it's progressing so far this year?
At Barranquilla, we expect to be on the ground, hopefully in Q4, and maybe as soon as Q3 at Chayacoyo. So we'll have the drills turning. We'll probably bring in 2 drills at Barranquilla and 1 over at Chayacoyo. We're putting the budgets together right now. I think at Chayacoyo we'll be submitting our permits, within a week or 2. At Barranquilla, as I mentioned, we're waiting to get some results from some metallurgical sampling that'll allow us to determine how many meters we need to do, and more importantly, where. The good thing about Barranquilla is it's most of the mineralization is within 100 meters of surface. You would expect to see an exceedingly low strip ratio, being that it comes right to surface. So the key thing is just making sure that we can produce saleable materials from the met going forward. Definitely.
So we talked about COVID and everything and the lockdowns. So now I was curious, when it comes to the Peruvian elections, has that affected business at all for you guys?
If you look at our stock price, I would have to say yes. The far left candidate Castillo, I think, caught a lot of people by surprise that he actually came out ahead in the first runoff, and it's I don't want to say it's cast a pall over Peru and in the mining sector, but there are a lot of people that weren't concerned previously that are now. And I think rightfully so. Whenever you see that, it is concerning. Now, we've talked to a lot of people in Peru in senior positions, former ministers of mining, so at fairly high levels. And the consensus is that the candidate Castillo will need to move to the center to be elected. Now, if that's the case, we can probably live with it. What you would probably see is an increase in some taxes, royalties, things of that nature, very similar to what we saw happen in Mexico. Not a perfect scenario, but it's a scenario you can live with. Now, if that minister, if once he's elected, started putting in really leftist type of ministers in his government, that's a different case, and there's cause for concern. But the general consensus is Fujimori, which is the right of center candidate that he'll be facing in the runoff, should win. Now, he shouldn't have won in the first. I think he only had, I think 27% of the vote. So he's got a long way to go. Cautiously optimistic, Fujimori will win. And it'll be, I would say business as usual. The world of mining is changing. The environmental, the social issues are becoming a lot more paramount than they were 10 or 15 years ago, which is fine. As long as we know what they are, we can work with those parameters, Eric. What we don't like is uncertainty. And as long as whoever is president doesn't dictate uncertainty to the markets, we can live with it.
Yeah, exactly. So by the looks of it, you guys seem to have one of the largest silver resources out there. How do you guys compare to your competitors, or any comments you have on your resource?
Oh. Well, unfortunately, our hands are kind of tied right now because we can't add all our resources together. I sort of trotted out, broke them out for you. But yeah, look, I think as a development company, we're at the almost at the top of that list. But I think we're if you look at our ore bodies, all open pittable, or should be, they're open pit targets. And I think, the grade is probably one of the highest, if not the highest, of most of our peer companies, yet we trade at a lot less valuation to the peers. Now, that's probably a product of not being able to put out news, largely because of our hands being tied because of the COVID restrictions, but those are coming off, and we'll be able to do that. And I think when you compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges, Aftermath stacks up exceedingly well. And you've got to think we're at these metal prices for us are fabulous. We're thrilled with where they are. So if silver moves up again, you get the whole sector lifting. We'll get exposure to that. I think we offer tremendous leverage, but God forbid, if prices were to fall out of bed, we should be able to demonstrate we're fine. So you've got a built-in safety net within the company, I think, but you also have exposure to upside. And I think that's what our shareholders want. And they want us to demonstrate that we can make these work. And, and that's a 24 to 36 month window, which we would currently have open and that we're going to do. So, yeah, I think going forward, everything looks exceedingly positive.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I like the fact that, you guys have a relatively high grade resource, and that being a safety net is very important. So Aftermath Silver, one of their most recent press releases, I know it wasn't this month, but you guys did announce DTC eligibility. Can you explain that a little bit for our viewers and just what that means?
Yeah, we list in the United States on the OTC under the symbol AAGFF. We're basically a foreign issuer in the U.S. We are actually going up on a higher level. We've currently applied to go to the QX on the OTC, but DTC eligibility allows a lot of smaller investors to trade electronically, and it just streamlines the ability to buy the stock in the U.S. The goal is, once we put out the PEA and pre-feasibility study at Barranquilla, to see where we are in the marketplace. And I think there could be an opportunity to list on New York, which is what we'd like to do. It's the old Amex that the NYSE bought, but I think that's a good fit for us. our shareholdings are evolving into more institutional and more US based, which is kind of where you want to be. We still have a strong retail following, but that covers off everything. It allows institutions in the US to purchase us, and the broker network in there in the US also would have more access to buy Aftermath shares.
Great to know. So what's the one thing you're most excited about for Aftermath Silver, let's say in the next year or so?
Well, I think on the macro side, I think in a year or so we'll be close to kind of demonstrating that, hey, we're an advanced stage development company going forward. We're going to be one of the biggest, we think, in the silver space, but hopefully we can demonstrate at that point we're one of the best. And by best, I mean that we can stress test our projects, work at a lot lower metal prices, but also offer tremendous exposure, a lot of torque in the stock. And you can see the finish line, and the finish line being a path to production. And I think as any development company, that's what you want to demonstrate. We're always asked, are you planning on selling these projects? And I think the answer is no. We're capable of putting them into production. Peter Valgaris, who heads up our technical team, essentially did all the underground development at Oyu Tolgoi for Robert Friedland in Mongolia, one of the world's big copper gold mines. We are capable technically going into production. But, having said that, companies like ours and some of the exploration guys, when they make discoveries, we have become the de facto exploration and development arms for the producers and the mid tiers, and in some cases, if you find enough, for the senior companies as well, because they're not doing a lot of exploration and finding new things and advancing them. So if these projects are as good as we think they are, it'll be interesting to see if post PFS and PEA who comes to the table, because there's very few low-cost silver producers out there, and we're one of them. And we're silver dominant as well, which is key. Although we have a significant copper component of Berenguela, I'm not going to make apologies for that, because it'll be worth a lot of money, especially when you look at these copper prices, we think. But at the end of the day, I think we're positioned really well against our peers in the space. But going forward, what other companies are going to be looking for, I think we're going to fill a void. Now we've got a lot of water to go under the proverbial bridge to get there, but we're going to do the work to have those answers sooner than later.
Definitely, it's an exciting time for the metals. So, what are your current thoughts? Let's say on the physical price of silver. Where do we go from here? If you have a prediction.
Well, yeah, it's like my own stocks. I'm really good at buying and terrible at selling. I think, from a company point of view, call it $25 silver. That's a good silver number. Long-term consensus pricing for silver now is 18. So if they hold at 18, or pardon me, 25, we're absolutely thrilled. Now, what I am seeing is a bit of a decoupling on the silver side and gold, which I've never seen in my career. This is 26th year in the business. And I think largely it's because silver is starting to catch that industrial wave, a green wave, because so much silver is used in electronics. And as the world's going to electrification, we're using more silver. So, a lot of people that previously wouldn't have bought silver are for that reason. And if you start to see inflation, obviously, I think we'll see gold move, and then we move with gold. So as a silver investor, uniquely, people are exposed to both an industrial component and the gold side of it, the precious metal side. So from that point of view, I'm fairly bullish on silver moving forward. I look at it like this, Aaron. Could gold go to let's call it 4,000, 3,500, double? Yeah, it could. The odds of silver going to 50, I think, are a lot greater. And if you look at some of the guys that legitimately produce silver consistently, that don't have to shut down if the metal prices for the sort of the top quartile, the money that they would make at $50 silver you'd be shocked at the cash flows that it will generate. So I think that would, you'll see that throughout the industry. I think we're breathing right now. There's been a pullback. This is good. This is consolidation. If silver moves north of 30, I think you'll see all ships come up again. But in the meantime, we can deal with these prices or even lower if we have to. So that's my simplistic take on silver. If it goes over 30, buckle up. It's going to be a heady ride.
Yeah, I agree. And to add to your point, we haven't even seen silver test previous all-time highs, yet we saw gold already. So yeah, I also feel like, silver does have more upside, and the millennial aspect with the electric vehicles, as you mentioned, and electrification in general. So
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so where's the best place for investors or viewers to find out more information about Aftermath Silver?
On our website, www.aftermathsilver.com. That's the best. Or conversely, our phone numbers are on there. Phone myself or the president, CEO, Ralph Rushton. We're happy to talk to anyone and give you an update. And going forward, we'll keep everyone in the loop. And thanks for having me on, Aaron. I appreciate it.
Of course, Michael. I look forward to covering the story, silver, and everything. So we look forward to having you back.
That should be fun. Talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, guys, that wraps up the video. Thank you so much for watching. I just wanted to say, if you do support me, the channel, and all these videos, then kindly smash that like button along with hitting the subscribe button and the bell for notifications for future videos. I did also want to say, check the disclaimer down below. This video was sponsored by the company that we are talking about today. So check the disclaimer, full disclosure, and we're out of here. Always remember, guys, Departures Capital is for information, education, and entertainment purposes only. Don't buy or sell a stock because you heard it on here. Buy or sell a stock because you've done your research, you've done your thorough due diligence, and you make your own personal investment decisions for yourself. This video is not financial advice. We'll see you guys in our next video.